Hey, gang, coming up on our Finding Better podcast, Keith Anderson is joining me, and we're going to talk about getting promoted. He worked for Meta and he worked for Google, and sometimes it's not just about checking off all the boxes on your performance review. Sometimes, in fact, always, it has to do with building trust. It has to do with building that human connection so that when you come across that promotion board, you're ready for them and they know who you are. We're going to talk about these things, and it's especially relevant in the world and the era that we're moving into of artificial intelligence. That humanity part of working and building your career and even relationships at home is going to be more and more important as we move forward. So share this, and here we go. Okay, hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And this is where we share real life experiences of people who have been there and done that in terms of finding better in their own lives. And I've learned in my life that sometimes the best path to success is to follow in the footsteps of others who've been there and done that. And that's what we talk about here. We don't talk about opinions, we don't talk about theories, we don't talk about academics. We talk about real lived experiences that you can learn from. My guest today is Keith Anderson. Keith, welcome to Finding Better. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, John. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes, and we're going to talk about something we're going to talk about a lot this year, and that is success and
Mm,
how to succeed in a changing world. Because, the fact of the matter is, if you think about all the changes that have happened and the enhancements in our own lives that have occurred since ChatGPT, right?
hmm
It is amazing how AI is changing how everything works, including leadership. And so, we're a lot of people might argue most still think that success comes from working harder and communicating more. That's not necessarily the case. And AI is changing all that. The next era of success, and this is something that Keith and I are going to talk a lot about, really belongs to those who lead with their humanity, their human strengths like intuition, like empathy, adaptability, and really keeping things simple. So Keith is the founder of the Career Alchemy Lab, and he helps professionals reposition themselves for roles in this new world, right? This is awesome. And because, folks, if you're not being affected by it now, it is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so, before, where success was traditionally defined by conformity, working harder, staying late, driving metrics, the new world is kind of changing. And it's a lot about leading with clarity and presence and with humanity. So, with that, Keith, welcome again.
Thank you, thank you.
All right,
Thanks for the
so
wonderful intro.
yeah, so you've had experience. You've worked for Google, you've worked for Meta, you've been in tech. Tell us your story. Tell us your story about what led you into doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, so I was an individual contributor starting at Google, then Uber, YouTube, and been doing that for a few years. And I knew that the next step that I wanted to take was to move into leadership roles, right,
Hmm.
at in big tech, right? So, I had spoken to my manager, I had tried to do this on my own, but what I realized is the feedback that I was hearing from, my manager, her peers, other people was really positive. But then when it came to the promotion panels, I would always hear something like, "Oh, you're great. Everyone loves you, but,"
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And so I felt like, what am I doing? What am I doing that's not getting me to that while everyone is saying I am doing things to get to that
right.
next level? So I knew it wasn't something of direct communication that people were having with me. So they were saying all positive things, but it's clearly something else. So once I So I did move into a leadership role at Meta, and I started attending these promotion panels and, as part of them. And what I realized is that it's not so much about what people say, but it's about what that clear signal is of who you are and how you are trustworthy and you are a safe bet for them to put you forward into that next role, right? Because being likable, being great at what you do, being a great performer, that is different from being promotion ready, right? That's great performer. Maybe you get exceeds expectations or, amazing results there, but that doesn't mean that you're ready for the next role if people can't communicate who you are.
So,
Um,
so you,
yeah.
so, and this is coming from your experience of finding yourself on a promotion panel. So
Yeah.
this is real. This is real
Yeah.
experience. So so what do you mean by that? I mean, you have all the things that people strive for. You have your performance plan and you're told what to do. And a lot of people feel like, and I was in tech for 41 years, so I know that world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But people go check, 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 right? I'm ready to
Yeah.
go, and yet
Right.
you're not. So, so help us understand where that disconnect is between the
Yeah.
checklist and the reality of being recognized as being ready for a promotion.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes down to it, when what we're told about how to be promotion ready is
Hmm.
to take on bigger scope, to drive more metrics, to do all these things that empower the company. But the thing is, the big thing that people miss is how are leaders that are in the promotion rooms speaking about you? What do they say about you? What is their alignment to what other people are saying? And what language can you provide them to advocate for you in these rooms, right? Because your work alone doesn't tell a lot. We are storytellers as people, all people, and people need to know how your story brings you to that next level. And yes, the work that you've done, but it's more about how you are a safe bet, right, for that leadership role, not just doing great work. So what I realized is when I started being in these promotion rooms, is people started telling like stories about the people that they wanted to promote. And then other leaders in the room chimed up and said, "Yeah, I see that. Da 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 da. Let's put them up for promote, or let's promote them." Right. But what I realized with people who were strong performers but didn't get selected is the leaders would say, "Oh yeah, they're great. They do this. It's great. Wonderful, wonderful." But they always say like, well, are they at the next level, or not, so that's number one. And then number two, well, to be honest, we need to be thinking about what are the intentions of the people in that room. If you're doing a great job, right, why would they necessarily want you to be in that next level, right, if you're already doing a great job? It's a safety and trust issue there too, right? So there is a bit of politics that plays there. So once I started realizing once I realized that, and I started working with my direct reports on how we can communicate this, then things started to come a lot smoother. And that was how I moved from a manager all the way to VP within 8 years in total, from IC to VP.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah, and at these big tech companies too, right? And a lot of it is psychology based, honestly, right? And storytelling,
Okay, so
like,
wait a minute, wait a minute. Okay, so um, okay, I'm going to give you a perfect example. Okay,
yeah, I
I
love it.
am my son. Okay, my son is the kind of guy I want to grow up to be when I grow up,
Oh,
and
wow.
he's just an amazing guy. He was with Amazon for 13 or 14 years, which is a big deal. I think maybe 1% of people last 10 years at Amazon. So he
Yeah,
was there And he was with Twitch for his last 4 years. For his
Mhm.
last 3 years, he was promised a promotion into executive leadership. Okay.
Mhm.
And every year he was told, do this, you're doing great. You just do these next three things and you're going to be fine. And then the next round would happen. And well, there's one guy that didn't, that, that kind of vetoed, uh, so do this next year. So this went on for 3 years. Okay. So finally, my son said, let me talk to this guy, call him Ron. Let me
Yeah.
talk to Ron. So he went in and talked to Ron. And I was stunned when he came back and told me what Ron said. He said, Michael, you're doing a great job. You're doing a wonderful job. And you know what? We need you right where you are. And there's no jobs out there right now. So you're not going to move anyway.
Interesting. Yeah,
He said,
yeah.
he said that out loud.
I'm glad he did.
I am too. I am
Yeah,
too. So
yeah,
Michael, then my son calls me and he's just completely incensed because he did
yeah.
everything he was told to do. And so he decided to check the job market. And we said, don't don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Cool off, take a week. Cooler heads shall prevail. And he stayed with the company until he got picked up by Netflix.
Okay.
And um and happy as ever. And this is at a time, this is just less than a year ago when nobody's
Yeah.
hiring. Nobody's hiring. But somebody at Netflix knew who he was. So the question to you then is, in my son's situation, might be an extreme situation, but he did the checklist. What is my the question is whether the stories that whether you have to build your stories as you're going, because once the promotion board convenes, everybody's got their opinion of you, right?
Mm.
So I mean, but can you create that story to convince people at that time, or do you have to be building those stories as you're moving towards that promotion?
Well, just as you said, you need to be building those stories, but it's not just your stories in isolation. It's your stories with those people who are in the promotion room, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
what role are they in the story with you? Do you see what I mean? Like, I don't know anything about your
Right.
son's
At Amazon. Yep.
nemesis, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to say. But I would imagine, right, a big reason why that might be happening is because there wasn't a connection there that had been made
That is
that
very true.
and it doesn't need to be this connection that takes years to develop or anything, but there are some really smart and strategic ways where you can build that safety nest for people. I mean, this is humanity, right? So people at all levels, you're building that safety and that trust, even in short communications, even just sometimes in larger meetings, saying like a few sentences to them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
These are things that signal that you're a safe bet. So I would venture. I don't know enough about him and the situation, obviously, but um, it might be that he had been more of like an unknown to this guy, right? Or just like you don't know, right? Maybe he's great. Everyone's saying he's great, but words don't speak as loud as actions potentially. And if you're not aware of the role that someone plays in the actions, that can, it can confuse people, right? And that might be part of the trust. But it's hard to say when I don't know the
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know
Of
what I
course.
mean?
Of course. But, I think that there's a huge, huge golden nugget for people to take out of this. And
Yeah.
and that golden nugget is it's not whether you deserve the promotion. It's whether the people who are promoting you consider you a safe bet.
Right.
Right. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because, their reputations are on the line too. If they make bad
Yes.
decisions on key promotions, they're going to look bad. And
Right.
so for my audience, right? Be thinking about that. Be thinking about what you can be doing. And I'm not talking about, and I don't think you are either. I'm not talking about figuring out who's going to be on the promotion board because they always change and then go brown nose after them.
No, no.
That's not what we're saying. We're saying think of it from the perspective of the people who are going to be on the other side of the table. How
Right.
can you present yourself in meetings and in communications um, as not only a person deserving, but a person who's going to be a safe decision, a safe choice,
Yeah.
right?
It, yeah, I mean, exactly, right. And the kind of the theory around leadership signaling is the fact that if we think of it like a radio signal, right? There's the radio signal that is like pretty straightforward, it's clear, it's easy to know where it's going to go, right? But then there's the one that's like very staticky and moving all over the place. And while people might say you're great to both of those people, what's really happening. And some of this is in people in the promotion room or people at all levels, really, who, while they might be saying yes, they might subconsciously not know why they don't think you're ready, but they'll say that, even though they think you're great. But it's also like a subconscious thing
Yeah,
that
yeah,
isn't,
yeah,
you know what I mean? So there are signals that you need to be noticing in what they're doing and how you're coming across, right? So at the end of the day, it's about them and you, right? Like you need to
sure.
shape perceptions, right? And it's not always on what you do, right? Because you'll hear people saying, okay, you're great, but you need more executive presence or, some vague thing. But that's usually when people can't really articulate or really even know themselves
Yeah,
what the
yeah,
issue is,
yeah, yeah. So in those cases, um, when they don't know, it's just a feeling that they have, right? How do you
Yeah.
coach people to get through that?
Well, going back into what you said at the beginning of this, it starts with intuition and really being able to tap into what the unspoken, right? And being able to read the room or read the person that you're talking to, right? And with that, a big way to do that is instead of asking like direct questions in the sense of like what are the steps I need to take, right? Like something that's so logical, you ask steps that go towards the emotional state that people have about you, and you know what I mean, and kind of circumvent that way, because that is will tell you more than just like what should I do type of thing.
Yeah,
So that's a big piece of it, and then from there interpreting their responses um, through the lens of someone who would be hiring and putting yourself in their shoes. I mean, if you're on a hiring panel or promotion panel or anything, the decisions you're making are quite fast and they're a lot more intuitive based because you don't have all of the work this person has done fresh in your mind. And, so it's quick, right? Because everyone has more work to do. All the
yeah.
leaders, they're not just reviewing you for promotion, but they're reviewing however many other people. So I, we need to put ourselves into those shoes to understand really what is going on from their perspective and see how you also can support them and help them, on their journey with what they're doing too. And their journey can intersect with your journey, with your story. And then that's how you bring people along with you
It,
instead of doing your separate thing completely. Do you know what I mean?
when this happens, you get promoted.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so
essentially.
everybody,
Yeah.
if you're just listening and you can't see me, I'm pulling. I have my fingers open. And I'm pulling them together, and
Yeah.
when that connection happens, that's when you get promoted. The really interesting. This is a fascinating conversation because I've never thought of a lot of the things I'm thinking about right now, and I wish I did, which is wonderful for the people who are listening and who are still in the middle of their careers, because this is where the art of business comes in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an art and a science. And
Hmm.
so, the black and white part of it, folks, is the checklist. The black and white part of it is your performance plan, right? And then you have the performance review. Equally, if not more important, what Keith and I are talking about, I think, Keith, because this is how I feel,
Yeah.
equally, if not more important, is the art part of it, is the human part of it, is the intuition
Yeah.
part of it, is the
Yeah.
people connection part of it,
Right.
right? And and it took you a lot of years to figure that out. And it takes a
It,
lot of people a lot of years to figure that out.
yeah, it really does. And what's interesting, if you think about it, is when you're in these large businesses and even middle-sized companies too, there's a big drive around metrics about being
Yes.
results
Yes.
driven and all of
Yes.
that, right? And sure, that's important, but like at the end of the day, the unspoken piece is the connections that you are building with people and how together you're working to drive these things forward, and that's it needs to be
Oh
intertwined.
my gosh. Oh my gosh. I just flashed on something. I just flashed on a friend of mine, right? Who is the networking king. And
Ah,
he's not a brown noser. He's just a really nice guy. A
yeah,
really nice guy. Now, from the standpoint of the quality of his work, not so much.
yeah,
But he's out there networking with people, helping people, sincerely helping
yeah,
people,
yeah,
connecting with them. When they have a new baby, he celebrates with them, and he's all
yeah.
heart. And round after round after round of layoffs. I'm not gonna tell you what company it is, but it's one of the big seven or one of the FANG
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
one of the big
yeah,
tech companies. He survives. He survives. And the
yeah,
reason why he survives is because really is excuse me, his human connection. Exactly what you're saying.
exactly. Right.
That
It,
is amazing.
and if you think about it, I don't want to go too far in like the history or sociology of it, but if you think about it, like back to the cavemen days, we were all in tribes, right? If there was someone that you don't know coming in from another tribe, just coming to visit, I mean, you're going to be guarded. You're going to have you're going to be guarded and you're going to protect yourself. But if one of the other people of your tribe brings someone from that other tribe over and says, "Hey, this is Joe. He's great. I know you don't know him." They're going to be much more open to talking with him, right? So it's that same instinct that we all have that really we need to drive in. But the problem is it can be really complex and it's not what it seems on the surface level when you are in these companies that are, talking about all metrics and all these things
Right.
that are important, but that's just the surface layer.
Yeah. Yeah. But they talk
So
about it all the time, and so you're focused all the time, right? And
I know.
it's a trap. It's a trap. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people that are successful time and time and time again because they focus on the metrics.
Yeah.
But as I think through those really successful people, they also have their human side of them
Right.
that they really, really let show in caring
Yeah.
and understanding and trying to understand the person's perspective on the other side of the table
Yeah.
and making it safe.
Right. And there are some really specific things you can do in your communication with people that signal these things to build trust. One
Good.
of them, for example, is um, if when you reach out to someone that you haven't talked to in a while, say something like, "Oh, I was thinking of you," right? Like that signals that you're top of mind, they're top of mind for you, right? And that builds a stronger connection, right? Another thing that works really well is when you're talking with someone in the corporate environment, you say something like, "Hey, I just want to let you know that anything you say to me during this conversation, it's confidential. It's just between us. I like you're explicitly saying these things, right? That is a trust. That's trust and safety right there, right? You need to
Yeah.
be explicit about it. So it's though there's some small things like that, and then there are much bigger things about your strategy, really, about bringing in this human side piece in all of your relationships, whether they're short relationships or small relationships you have just with people you don't work with that much, or larger, higher impact conversations and people that you want to have a stronger connection with. So yeah.
I was in tech. I was in sales. In fact, I was
Okay.
in sales for over half a century, and
Yeah.
growing up and all that kind of stuff. And I lived my life by this little saying that I picked up somewhere that said, "They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care."
Yeah.
Okay, okay, kids, write that down. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And we're talking a lot about that kind of thing right now, right? Now,
Yeah.
Keith, I'm gonna up the ante here on our conversation, okay? Because as we start off talking about the world of AI, okay? I am one of those guys, call me extreme, that can't think of a job or work that at some point AI or a robot will not be able to replace. Okay. So that's an extreme, but let's say we get to 80% of it. Okay, well, 80% of it us are going to be affected, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in 10 years we're going to be in this new world. This new world is going to happen very, very quickly. You know,
Hmm.
I drive around in a self-driving Tesla. I call it my robot. The thing is incredible, right? It's wonderful. You tell it, you type in work and it just takes me there. Um, in 12 months, I'll be able to take it to have it take me to the airport, and I'll be able to tell it to go home. Right? They're going to be robo taxis. We're already seeing these. We're seeing this with Waymo and Tesla. Well, that's just a little example of what's going to happen with taxi drivers and Uber drivers. Right? What about long haul truck drivers? What about when robots happen? Anyway,
Yeah.
what I'm really wanting to do is to get people just to think about that as being a possibility. Because if you think about your job being replaced and automated, you can then start to be curious about it, not fearful. I don't want people to be fearful. I want people to start being curious. And
Yeah.
the things that we're talking about, I am absolutely convinced are the things that are going to take us into the next decades. It's our
Hmm.
humanity, right? It's our
Yeah.
humanity. It's our connections that robots, they're going to be able to do it to some level, but they're not, we're human beings. So
Right.
as we're thinking about this, are you also, and here's another quick example that I talk about all the time. These poor kids who went in who started college 4 years ago thinking they were going to work for Meta and for Google and for Amazon and for
Mm.
Microsoft, right? They're graduating with their diplomas today and walking out the front door and going, "Where is everybody?"
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
The big tech
Hmm.
companies aren't hiring junior people anymore. And that happened from the time they started college to the time they graduated.
Hmm.
Okay? That's how fast it's happening. So as you think about how you coach people and you share your experiences with them, how can how can how can people what can people do? What can people do to prepare for this messy middle, right? We're where
Yeah.
we are today, and we're going to get to where, presuming we survive this whole thing, we're going to get to an end state. But between now and then, it's going to be really messy. So
Yeah.
what do and you might not have thought about this, but given your experience and your background, what how do people move forward?
Yeah. I mean, well, I would say, and this is a broad term, but
Okay.
Critical thinking. And
Yeah.
what I mean by this is like if you go back in time to the Industrial Revolution, kind of that piece of critical thinking when we were on assembly lines, like we all had our own little thing, we didn't really need critical thinking quite as much, right? And that had been taken out a bit. And then even education, honestly, I had been an educator for many years, but it's about conformity, right? We're moving
Yes.
into a time where conformity isn't the way we're moving forward. And a lot of that conformity is now going to or is already being able to be done by AI and robots. So now to be a critical thinker,
Uh,
like you need to
whoa.
be, yeah, it's a different time that we're living in, right? Like if there's all of our generations have different focuses and different times and different skills that we need, and moving into this one, we're moving out of the knowledge era, the knowledge phase of humanity, and we're moving more into the critical thinking, which I think there's a lot of overlap with intuition with that, right? Where we're subtly getting signals that this might not be correct or this might not be good or other opportunities, and we're diving into those. So what I believe for all of us, and I tell my clients this and everyone, is our what where we need to develop now is to be comfortable in uncertainty, right? And that's how we adapt, right? If we think that like the typical promotion, I mean, even with what I do with helping people land a promotion, it's not coming from just check marking things and having
Right.
certain steps on
Right.
what's going to happen. That's not it. It's through humanity. It's through building connections with people and trusting your gut on kind of how you can bring those things kind of together to move to that next step. And it's through innovation. And you can use AI as a stepping stone for that as a thought partner, but you
Yes.
need to be working with it, not allowing that to work and then doing everything for you, because then you're stuck, honestly.
That's
You will be stuck, you know?
boy, you just in that last segment that you just went through, we could spend a whole episode talking about it and unwinding it. But I love
Yeah.
your comment about critical thinking.
Yeah.
And and then you went on and you talked about intuition. One of
Mm,
the things that having been in technology for so many years, starting with mainframes and PCs and the internet and social and web, mobile and all that stuff and e-commerce. Every generation of technology has made us smarter and smarter. And I coined
hmm
this phrase that says, we've gotten so smart, we've forgotten our heart. And
mm,
you mentioned the word gut. You know, there
hmm
there are three forms of intuition or intelligence that we have in our bodies. It's the brain, the heart. Heart does have intelligence, and so does our gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so talking about intuition and listening to your gut, listening to your heart. And the other thing that I encourage people to do is with that critical thinking, build the muscle of curiosity. You know,
Mm,
re, re, eh, eh, reacquaint yourself with your curiosity. When
hmm
we're kids, we're all curious, and yet the curiosity is driven out of us. That was
Yeah.
a stupid question. Why would you say something like that? That's a dumb
hmm
idea, right?
hmm
But that muscle of curiosity is what's going to open up the opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. It's just amazing when you do that. So I love the critical thinking. I love the intuition. I love the curiosity part of it. I mean, these are muscles. Think of it as muscles, folks. The
Yeah.
more you build them up, the better you're going to get at it, the stronger they're going to become. And it's all about our humanity. Um, Keith, this has been fun. This has been fun. We've talked about
Yeah.
a lot of things here. And the thing I love about our conversation is that it's practical today and it's practical, in where you are right now because, bring your
Yeah.
humanity into your work, right?
Yeah.
And it's certainly going to be practical as we move forward from now on, for
Yeah.
sure. So, I'm going to let you close us out. What do you want? What do you want to close us out with? Hit us with your best shot. And for people who want to get to know you better and want to learn more about and maybe talk with you and figure out a way to get you into their lives. All right, go. It's yours.
Yeah. A lot of pressure there. Well, first, just going back to what you're saying about your head, your heart, and your gut
Yep.
and energy, right? Like
Yep.
basically, we are moving now more into listening to your heart, right?
Yep.
And your brain isn't going to be the main driver for getting ahead. Your intellect isn't. So, what I help and I teach people to be is heart driven leaders. And that is the next generation. And it's also the current generation, too. So, being a leader that embodies that and using those heartfelt or really human felt ways to move into more senior roles and not just about you getting ahead, but really about how you're able to embolden your team and the people you're working with to have that same human like type of behavior and energy when they come to work. So
Yeah,
if that
and
sounds like, yeah, what are you going to say?
it's all about lifting others, right?
Yeah,
You lift a person, you lift the world. I always say that, and
right.
it's and I also want to add, folks, that leadership is not exclusive to business, right?
No.
Leadership, the most important leadership in my life is parenthood, right?
Mm,
It's in my personal life. I mean, leadership, we think about leadership, we think about, oh yeah, we think about business titans and leadership in
yeah.
business. But you know what, folks? Leadership happens everywhere. And
Yeah.
whether you're being a leading by a good example or a bad example, you are leading by example.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about here is rediscover your heart because that's what's set aside generations. This is a new era that we're going
Yeah.
into.
Yeah.
And I've loved it. All right. So how do people
S-
get with you, Keith? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. So, a few different ways. The first is I have a free online community through school that is called the Undeniable Leader. It's a place where leaders can come together who are in a similar energy that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
come together where we have group calls and we have just places where we can get to know each other and see how we can support one another as we all elevate to that next level in our career and then support everyone else the same. So
That's
that community,
wonderful. Undeniable
yeah,
leader. The undeniable
yeah.
community. Got it.
And it's at school, SKOOL.com/undeniable leader. And then if it sounds like you are very resonating with this very much, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. So you can go to my website at Keith Anderson, all one word, .io, and then /calendar. And just find a time and we can chat. So yeah,
That
that's how you can get in touch with me.
that's wonderful. And your undeniable. All right, school.com/undeniable leader.
Yeah,
Because you know what, folks? Things are going to happen so freaking fast. They are
yeah,
happening beneath our feet as we speak right now, right? That it's going to be communities like this one that Keith has that's going to keep us moving forward, right?
yeah,
Supporting each other. And really it's hard. It's hard. It's about
yeah,
heart. It's about helping each other and lifting each other and yeah, anyway, it's
yeah,
it's about giving. Give
yeah,
first,
yeah,
right? And you'll be
yes,
amazed. You'll be amazed at what comes back at you. Keith,
yeah,
this has been fun. This has been fun.
yeah.
I would love to have you back
Likewise.
sometime. And
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
and yeah, so thank you for all you're doing. I love you. God bless you. You're amazing.
Yeah, you
Folks,
too. Thank
um,
you.
check it out and check out school.com, SKOOL.com /undeniable leader. Participate in that. Thank you for joining us. I love you. God bless you. Thank you. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time. All right. Bye.
Yes.